Well, hi, David. Well,
Hello.
very happy to welcome you. And thank you so much. You just get out of the plane.
Yes.
Jump in the cab.
Yeah. So if I ramble or am incoherent in any way, that it's the standing excuse for that. Okay.
And just drop your luggage in the hotel and run.
Exactly. Yes.
And thank you very much. Sure. We like to welcome David Birke.
Oh. Hi. Thank you. Merci.
Okay. First of all, how David Birke came to writing?
In general.
In general.
Okay. I get not wanting to get a real job, I think, was the main thing. I wanted to be involved in. I wanted to be involved in making movies in some way, and I think I originally wanted to be an actor, but I was kind of very aware of my voice and its sort of nasal quality and thing. So I didn't think that would work. So then I just writing seemed like a thing that a shy person could do, and then you could say that you were writing. Like if you're an actor, you kind of have to get hired. Or certainly, if you can't say you're a director unless somebody actually gives you money to actually make a movie. But you can kind of pretend to be a writer just with like a computer or whatever. So so that was basically the scam, I guess. And then so then I did that. It's like whenever I get asked this question, it turns into like a mea culpa. Because I have to account for all these sort of vast gaps in the curriculum vitae, between because actually the first thing I actually had produced when I was still a student at UCLA, but that was 20 years ago. And then I did a whole. Oh, it is so embarrassing. I did a whole bunch. I was just thrilled to get paid to write. So I did a whole bunch of sort of like true crime things for television, or what they used to call women in jeopardy movies, and they would usually star a former Charlie's Angel. If you're aware of that TV, it would always be like Cheryl Ladd or something like that. And so I wrote several of those in a row. Then they kind of stopped making those, and then I actually the one non-embarrassing thing that I wrote in that 20-year period of extended embarrassment was this it was a biopic about Jeffrey Dahmer. Actually, there was I co-discovered Jeremy Renner. I can take credit for that. So it was his first movie, and then that actually made a bit of money in the block. I don't know if you know the Blockbuster video. It was on video. It was like a huge hit. So then I did a bunch of direct-to-video horror movies. Too embarrassing to. They would often have little to do with the scripts. It was and so I did to try to pay the mortgage. I did a bunch of those, and only the most horrible ones did my name actually stick to with a credit. So it was just everything was completely messed up. So. I'm sorry. This is a long, mea culpa. Sorry, but so basically, then finally, I actually met this guy Daniel Stamm, who's a director, and he was just out of AFI, and he was going to direct one of these crummy direct-to-video serial killer movies that I was doing about the freeway killer. There was an LA serial killer case, and he actually cared about trying to make a good movie, which was unheard of, because actually my producer friend who did all those movies, if something sort of had the smell about it, like you were trying to be creative or interesting, that was actually a red flag that he might not be able to sell it in Thailand or something like that. And so they go. It was just horrible. But Daniel actually was kind of rebelling against that, trying to actually make a good movie, and so we bonded over that experience. And then he got offered a job to do another horror movie, but Eli Roth was involved in it, so it was going to be slightly higher profile than the crap that we were doing. So he brought me on to do that. So then I did an uncredited rewrite of this movie that ended up being called The Last Exorcism. It was one of those found footage kind of things. And then M. Night Shyamalan actually, for some reason, liked that movie a lot. So then he had Daniel and I come out to his mansion in Philadelphia, and we lived with him for like a year working on this thing that has still never got made, probably never really will get made. But that little window there, when I was like, I guess I was like M. Night Shyamalan's protege or something, or that was the appearance anyway. So I got an agent and a manager finally out of that. I mean, I had agents before, but it was fly-by-night kind of things. It was like, and I was basically just working for the same three people over and over and over again. So anyway, so that was nice. So then just the last few years, finally got to do several, different things, and then I actually met Paul Verhoeven actually doing another. It never got made either. It was a remake of a Chinese movie. The Chinese movie was called Cop on a Mission. And he was still going to do that. And actually, Oscar Isaacs actually really wanted to do it. And Verhoeven said, he thought he was wrong for the part. And this was before he was really, really, really big. So that kind of torpedoed that. But then the L opportunity came along, and so that's finally how. So then that was my redemption, basically. Hopefully. Anyway,
so
yeah. Thank you for your patience with that long rambling thing. Sorry. Hey, thank you. Sorry.
So you survived all this.
Yes. It was like I was going to therapy or something. I apologize for that. It was just anyway. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
But was it a good learning process for you to write those horror movies?
In terms of what not to do, like what will destroy your soul and suck all the life out of you, yeah, like that. But actually, no, Daniel, the director who, I basically always made two different mistakes. When I was doing the low budget horror movies or the true crime television movies or something, I was always a very good hack. I could always, intuit what people wanted and then deliver what they wanted. But then when I was writing spec stuff, trying to sell it, I would be so, I don't know, I was straining so hard for originality or whatever that I would leave any potential audience like way in the dust. And actually, Daniel, who was the first one to sort of like tell me to start thinking about the audience. That like when you're writing a script, like every moment you're telling the audience like what they're supposed to be thinking or feeling. And I would kind of just have, actually, ironically, what I think Paul Verhoeven's sort of attitude is, which is just sort of like let the chips fall where they may and not worry so much about, oh, well, this is going to be unsympathetic. Or the audience, this is going to really turn off the audience there. I would like that sort of thing. But he was the first one to tell me, like, when you're writing something for real, and like as a real business proposition, you have to take the audience into consideration somewhat. And I think also, a lot of times when I was striving for complexity, it would come off as muddiness. Like too many contradictions and things have become. It's like what's the takeaway? So that was another problem that I would. I've basically made every mistake that you can possibly make.
That's a good way to learn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
And
anyway.
but to go back to the first question, what triggered the idea of writing, or do you have any influences or something you admire or somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I get my favorite writers are like Flannery O'Connor, Nabokov,
Novelists.
of course. Yeah, novelists. Yeah, that also to my detriment. Most of the writers that I emulated, or Cormac McCarthy, are novelists, and that's not really a good, frame of reference for writing scripts. So, again, a work in progress. But yeah, so it was so yeah.
So you're into the novelist world, and here on that film,
even when I was a little kid, though, I would pay attention to the names of the screenwriters in the credits, and I remember, like, even when I was a little kid, I remembered the names like Robert Towne and William Goldman. Their names would pop up over and over again on things I really liked a lot.
When you mentioned Nabokov, like, what did you think about the Lolita of
the
Kubrick?
movie? Oh, I mean, that's one of the greatest adaptations of all time because it's so loose and nothing like a faithful adaptation, but it's its own thing and it's great. And so that's what I think you should do with an adaptation. Actually,
did you read the script that Nabokov made that wasn't shot?
Yeah, I only in LA they actually had a traveling exhibit of Kubrick stuff, and they had that script in glass, actually. Yeah. But you could not turn the pages. You could just sort of like look at it through the thing. So that was the closest I came, actually.
It's available.
Oh, it is? Online?
Yeah. No, it's published.
Oh, it's published.
Yeah. It's published.
This is what a big fan I am. See,
No, but it's strange to see. We're going to discuss a lot about how do you work out of a book, and especially here you have a French book.
Yeah. So like I was saying, my French is very limited. I actually can do pretty well with reading. Actually, it's trying to speak that's a completely different proposition. I mean, I can barely do English, as you see. Yeah, so that was the first thing that was interesting about it. But also, this had a particularly kind of weird genesis, also in a way, because it was originally supposed to be an American movie, and so they actually that was why they had an American write it, because they wanted to get an American star, but. They all pretty much passed, like one after another. I mean, it's kind of, if you know anything about the story or anything, it's kind of obvious why.
It's not an American movie.
Yeah, it's not an American movie. Yeah, and it was interesting that Isabelle Huppert actually was enthusiastically in what other people were afraid of, or maybe even repulsed by about the thing. Like she actually like loved that and was enthusiastic about it and embraced that. So that also just I wish that I were European. Basically, is the thing.
So you're becoming European.
Yes,
you're coming to Cannes and you have a French movie.
Exactly. Yeah. So I can go home and say I have a French movie. So this is the start of the new cosmopolitan moi. Yeah.
Because. We could not see the movie because it's only screened tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I had to pick up the book to know a little about what's going on.
So it's interesting. It's it's interesting you mention the Kubrick version of Lolita, because the book, it's a great book. It's a really good book, but also it's not really a movie. Not at all. Yeah, there's not much of like a plot really per se. There's some incident in it, and I think whatever incident there is in the book, survived the translation and is in there. But I pretty much had to kind of invent a story, really.
I was wondering because, like, did you pick up the book or you were asked to?
Oh no. I guess. Paul Verhoeven and Saeed Ben Said, who's the producer, they had the rights to the book, and I think they actually had a couple of. This is actually an interesting thing too. They actually had a couple of French writers do drafts before me, and they weren't. And I don't know who they were or anything, but they weren't happy with those drafts actually, because they said they were too faithful. They were trying to, and I think part of the thing is, this is honestly, and this is a big confession on my part, I was not really aware of Philippe Gian. Am I even pronouncing the name correctly? Yeah, good.
Philippe Gian,
yeah. I was not even really aware of what a big prestigious author he was, and if I had been, I would have been a lot more intimidated and not like totally recreated it to the extent I did, and I think so. Apparently, that was the problem with the previous French writers on it.
On one side,
did you read the first version of the first draft of the script?
No, they pretty much threw those away. Apparently,
you didn't read it,
and I didn't read them. No.
You just had the book.
No, this is just what was told to me. They said why they wanted to get an American. They said basically, yeah. So yeah.
Yes, because on one side, Philippe Jean is known mostly because he has been adapted very well.
Oh, in Betty Blue, I'm aware of that.
Betty Blue is 37°2 le matin in
I
French,
forgot that's
and
the
it's
French,
a very. It was a very popular film, and
Now, I'm old enough, sadly,
of
that I
course.
remember when it came out.
Yeah. And so, because it's true that when you read it, at first you say, okay, how do you make a movie out of that? Because it's the interior thought of a woman that's been raped. It's kind of erratic narration. So, what did you like in the book?
Well, I speaking for myself, I mean, I can speculate about what other people liked in it, but you know, I won't even speculate. But I guess the idea was to kind of do some. I mean, I always like it when something sort of like kind of has a turn in it, like you think it's going to be one kind of movie, and then it turns. Also, I don't know what spoiler rules there may be in effect here, but basically the idea is it starts out like it's actually ironically very much sort of almost in the mode of like a Women in Jeopardy thriller in the beginning. You know, like this woman. In fact, a lot of the online, a lot of the blurbs I've seen about it, they describe it as like a revenge movie and a woman hunting down her rapist. And
so that's your specialty.
Thank you. Yeah, but no. But the thing is, it kind of faints in that direction. It starts off like that's what it's going to be, but then without giving anything away, it takes a very different
it's very different
direction in the second half, and then it becomes more kind of like a relationship movie in a way in the second half, but like kind of like I mean, I basically saw the genre as being sort of black comedy, sort of that subgenre of suburban black comedy, like I can't think of his name. The guy who wrote the novel, Tom Perrotta. It was almost like sort of a little bit like in that kind of dark side of suburbia noir kind of thing. Yeah. So I think it ended up being kind of more of that. But in the beginning, it has all these tropes of a guy in a mask like lurking around, and scene with a woman walking around with a knife, like thinking there's an intruder in her house. So it starts off almost in kind of a fake out way with some of those.
And you
scenes.
start the film that way with that feeling of.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I think it. Also, I should say I haven't seen the completed movie actually myself. So. But that's what it seems. I mean, I've seen several scenes that when they were actually doing looping and things. I've seen in pieces almost the whole thing, and I know, and they, I know what the script was. So that's basically what I'm basing all this on. But of course, there could have been, I know there's people who take, like actors in Terrence Malick movies, like take their parents to the premiere, and then they get there and they're 2 seconds, they were the star of the movie and now they're extras. So who knows? There could be some Cuisinart magic or something that I'm not prepared for. But other than that, it's exactly what I'm describing now. So anyway,
so how did you work with Paul Verhoeven? Did you have the script sessions, or how did you
basically he pretty much left me completely alone to do everything. And then we'd have lunch at the same place every day. Actually, there's one particular place that he likes, and then we'd have lunch, and then he'd give me his notes. And his notes, it was actually kind of exciting to me because I would always get notes, like I was saying, all about this character, this thing that this character does here in this scene is interesting, but I think the audience is going to tune out on her there. He never had a note like that or anything, or it's interesting. Also, I've gotten in trouble before. Americans don't like it if you juxtapose like sex and you can have sex in the movie, you can have violence in the movie, and you can have like weirdness in the movie. But if you have like an unholy confluence of weirdness, sex, and violence all at the same time, that's like, you get a lot of notes about that. But with Paul, it was like total carte blanche. You could do whatever you want with that. All his notes were very precise and mathematical almost. It was more like that he would challenge me to actually basically design the entire architecture of her house, and saying like, okay, so when you're sitting in a chair in the living room, can you see the backyard out the window, and so where is this? It was just all very much like that. Actually, I think he's a lot like Hitchcock in that way too. I actually at UCLA, I had a teacher. An Irish novelist named Brian Moore, who was a great guy, who wrote Torn Curtain for Hitchcock, and so I would ask him about like what writing a script for Hitchcock was like, and he said that the only notes that Hitchcock would let him do whatever he wanted, but his only notes would be like about the. If the characters got on a train, what are all the stops that the train makes along the way? How long does it stop at each station? Is there really a train line that goes from that place to that place and like that? And so it was kind of exciting to me because it was like almost working with Hitchcock or something, working with Verhoeven in that way. So it was a nice mixture of things. Like, so he's very attentive, but not in a way that stifles you or keeps you from doing what hopefully in the best case scenario they've hired you to do. So basically, if that makes any sense. Thank you again for your patience.
We're here.
Thank you. Yeah.
What about the characters? Did he let you do whatever he wants?
Well, the constellation of characters is very much the constellation of characters from the book. All the main. I don't think, other than the Huppert characters, son's lover's lover. I think other than that, and then the mother has like a gigolo lover that's not exactly like what was in the book. Other than that, that was all in the book. Yeah, it's like basically the characters are her mother it was in the book, who's like in her 80s and yet sort of like has all these sort of like kind of like boy toys and things like that, and then she has her ex-husband that she still has a relationship with, and then she's having an affair with her best friend's husband. And then there's and then she's like it kind of and then she has an affair basically with a neighbor and things like that. So, but that all that was basically laid out in the original novel. So that was a lot more specific detail than you probably needed about that. But anyway, thank you again. So anyway, yeah.
How do you did you follow the process of production? I mean, did you were involved in the casting, or did you involve or he
no,
just
not at all. No, I just wrote.
I tell you that because we had a few days ago we had Ken Loach, scriptwriter, and Paul Laverty, and he told us he was in every meeting with the people with Ken Loach for preparing the script. Then he goes to read the script. Then he comes back and he's involved in the casting. He's involved in the shooting. He's involved in editing. And it was amazing. And so that's what I'm asking this question.
Yeah, no. So this was not that experience. No, I wrote the script, and then they were very respectful of that and pretty much let it completely stand. But I wasn't. I mean, I was in America for one thing, and then they shot the movie here. I visited for a while, but I was not involved. Actually, on those crummy horror movies and the serial killer movies, I did have that experience. So actually, maybe can take some blame. But that is actually why. No kidding. I actually kind of co-discovered Jeremy Renner because I was involved in the casting of Dahmer, and that was his first movie. He'd done a car insurance commercial, actually, before that. So yeah. So far, that's my only contribution to cinema history.
He seems to have to had fun to write the script.
Oh, for what? For
L.
It was a lot of fun. No, just working with Paul was a lot of fun. Really, no, he's a great guy. And like I said, it was like it was like a dream come true. Just being given that kind of freedom. Yeah.
And did he, because he knows France? He's been living in Paris, and he knows. So did he help you out with the beginning of the script?
Actually, what's interesting is his experience with France was he was a student in France, like when he was a young man, like I don't know, 40 years, 50 years ago or something like that, and he actually. He is a true genius. He took like a 2-week immersion course to get himself back up to speed, and then he was speaking fluently. I mean, I guess it was like still in the back of his brain from his student days, but it was still amazing how fast he got into it again. Yeah,
because it's interesting for him to choose an American screenwriter to write a very typical French story.
Yeah, well, like I say, it was that. I lucked into it by happenstance because if Naomi Watts had said yes, or Nicole Kidman had said yes, it would have been an American movie. So so it basically reverted back to being French because of that. But
after you wrote the script,
no, that was when I wrote the script. It was like they wanted to make it as an American movie.
Okay. It was not decided that Isabelle Huppert would.
And then it was like like. She wants to do it, and we're French. They're saying, so let's just make it a French movie. Yeah, and that was.
And did you rewrite after she was chosen?
Yes, a little bit, and because there were a lot of things that culturally had to change, and also there were a lot like some funny lines and things that didn't work. I remember there was like one line about. It was something like Dan, you're a Republican and right, and he starts to say something, and she cuts him on and says like, well, the point is you have guns, right? And that was funny, I thought, in English, but it apparently did not translate at all into the French. It was like we
don't have guns yet.
So I was saying, oh well, wait, maybe you could say like was there like the National Front or something like that? And she's going, no, it's not the same. It doesn't have the same cultural thing. I guess right wingers here, they don't. It's not the same kind of thing like where you're always parading around with guns and stuff like that. So anyway, that was yeah. So anyway, that was just the one that popped in my mind. But there was there was a whole series of things. And actually, it was interesting. Yeah, I do wonder actually about how many of the nuances that were supposed to be amusing actually made it through the translation into French, because I read it over in French and kind of vetted it, but I'm not fluent enough to really know what all the nuances are and what's really being missed, because there's a certain sarcasm. I think it comes through in her performance. I mean, just even in the scenes I've seen, I think it comes through. But you can't put in every parentheses in every line of dialogue like dryly or sarcastically.
No.
So you just have to. It's like sort of like a little bit like putting a message in a bottle and sending it out to sea, and you sort of hope that somebody picks it up on the other end.
Actually, that's one technical question. Ordinarily, not specifically here. Usually, what do you put as indications for a character's role? Yeah. Very little, or
I've changed a lot actually since I've been working more for real and working for studios and things like that, which I never did before. I do not call what I did before real. No. But like for like Warner Brothers, like people like that, like real people. I find that actually. You kind of, I don't want to use the expression like dumbing it down, but you kind of do. You have to spoon feed everything. A lot of notes are like sarcasm would be a main thing. Like you get a note like saying, oh, this seems kind of like an odd line, and then you say, well, he doesn't really mean it. He's being funny, and then you go, well, why don't you put in parentheses trying to be funny? Or something like that, and really seriously, and so you do that, and actually, another thing I just did. This is new to me actually also. I just wrote this Slender Man movie for Sony. And the notes that I was getting on that, well, there's one. I should be careful about what I'm saying here. There's one particular executive that they want to make sure they know where all the scary parts are in the script. So I was like instructed, all the scary parts have to be in like 14-point bold, all caps.
No.
So that seriously.
Wow.
So that you can scan the script and go, oh, scary, like that. Yeah. And then I still didn't go far enough. And this has never happened. One of the executives actually went in and did a little kind of polish on the script, just going in and adding in exclamation marks, extra exclamation marks here and there. So it would be like you turn around and the monster is there is not good enough. It's got to be the monster is there. And, literally over and over and over again. And so that, and so there's a lot, and then a lot, you get notes a lot about putting in parentheses things that, if you read Shakespeare or something, it's just the dialogue and then he dies, and then that's it. But no, this is you have to direct the whole thing moment by moment, leaving nothing to the imagination. I guess it's a different. It's like a different ball game. It's I guess when there's more money involved, it's more like you're working on like a corporate product, I guess, really. And so so there's safety measures built into the process all along the line. And so which I'm happy to do. I didn't mean to make it sound like I was complaining.
No,
I just thought it was amusing, so I was trying to
we hear different
break the
opinions
tension
about that.
here by sorry. Anyway,
it's some people say that actors resent when they are told how to act the line, and sometimes I've been told don't put afraid or whatever. Let the actor.
No, that's what I always thought. No, also I went to UCLA and took screenwriting classes there, and everything that I was taught in school turned out to be absolutely wrong.
Good.
I mean, no, seriously. No, they say actors hate being directed. First thing that goes out the window. So many things, and also even the thing if you read a screenwriting handbook or you take a class, the thing that they hammer into you over and over again is about protecting the spine. To never go off on any tangents. That everything has to either be serving, conveying information, or it has to be some sort of cubative exposition about the character.
Yes.
But it actually seems like if you really need. It requires embellishment beyond that. If you just do that and nothing else, it just doesn't work. And even though that's technically wrong, I think they kind of expect more, and also they think more, especially in anything that's at all genre. They expect more in terms of set pieces and things too. They think more in terms of set pieces, even apart from I wrote a science fiction thing for Warner's, and most of their notes were not really about the story per se, but almost like overtly saying for the trailer we need a moment that has some bigger scale to it. So can you see this alien thing that's on the other side of the wall that right now you only allude to? Even just a shot of that's something we can put in the trailer and it'll help. So and that's another thing. Big. I always would write small because I think that would help somehow make the script seem more plausible to somebody, that it could be made. But now that's. Smallness is actually a negative characteristic. You actually now have to amp everything up to make it seem really big, because now I guess the reality is there's only two kinds of movies they make. There's $150,000 movies, and then there's in Hollywood anyway, and then there's $100 million movies. There's nothing in between. So the kind of movies I always wanted to make. Or a movie like Elle, for instance, and Paul Verhoeven was my big hero when I was a kid. They just don't make these in America, period, anymore. They only make them in Europe. So, so I guess that's why I'm going to have to divorce my wife, find a French person, and get French citizenship so that I can, work here all the time. I guess that's the new plan. Yeah. So anyway,
do you think that writing horror movies before helps you to write movies right now? And how does it?
Yeah, I do. I have been typecast to a degree, doing like thriller or horror genre kind of stuff, and I have got to the point where I can do that in my sleep, and to the point where it gets depressing. Also, for one thing, if I ever have to write like somebody entering a room and there's something spooky about the room, how many different ways can you really describe that? So I hopefully never going to do that again. But a lot of things are require that, and then even if you don't include those beats, then you get notes that you have to go back and include them. So sorry.
And here in this case, you have a main character who's a woman. Mm-hmm. And as you were mentioning, it would have been difficult to release a film like that in America?
Yeah. I think also because it involves rape, if you look at like Huffington Post or Salon or Slate, it's like anything can be taken out of context, like and misinterpreted, like very, very quickly. And I don't know if I don't think there's the same kind of regimen of political correctness here in Europe. And also, I should say, I hate people who complain about the tyranny of political correctness in general, because usually they're just bigots, and that's just sort of like a cover for just being a bigot. But at the same time, there is some truth to it too, where there's a certain, especially in America, there's a kind of timidity about like just touching on rape or things like that you that if it's anything but, I wouldn't even, I was about to disparage it in a like some sort of like a dry therapeutic sort of, like you can't do anything dark or something like that. Like you couldn't, like if you do a Holocaust movie or something, it better be a reverent Holocaust movie. If you did try to do like, I don't know, like some sort of, I guess Life is Beautiful sort of did. I was going to say like trying to do some sort of like a black comedy or something set in that period. It would not fly at all. So anyway, so it was almost, doing something like that with rape, it was almost close to treading into that territory in a way.
So like, what did you think the author Philippe Jean did with putting himself into a woman's mind after being raped? And the story is quite exceptional.
Yeah,
we won't say what happens, but it's and he's a man, you are a man, Paul Verhoeven is a man, only Isabelle is a woman.
Well, you know what? What's interesting there, and I was also working with Paul on this Jesus thing also, and I realized with Elle, it was never articulated, but like he has the same resistance to kind of psychologizing that I do, and he likes mystery. And I always think that's a key thing too. That's like one of the main things I hate in American screenplays, where everything gets reduced to the character has like one trauma in his past. Like often it's a child died, or the wife died in his arms, and then that explains everything. There's there's such a reliance on that, or the character so in this, actually, before I got the job, the first discussion that we had, he actually kind of laid almost a trap for me, because in the book, her father, it's just a thrown in detail that her father was a mass murderer, basically, the Isabelle Birke. And he said, and so he asked me, so do you think that she behaves the way that she does because of her experience with the father? And I said, no, I think that would be pretty dumb. That's not the case, and there's more to it than that.
You got the job,
and so I got the job because he did not want to just do she had this trauma in childhood, and so she's damaged, and so she does what she does. Yeah, so it's like kind of also, and then also it kind of takes away her agency too. I think she's in charge and she's in control the whole time, and she's consciously making these decisions too. She's not just like like an automaton with some sort of like being wound up by her id or something. So she's very she almost has a kind of a Desaad kind of quality in a way, just in a way that the self-conscious way that she goes about doing what she does.
Yeah, because she's a very complex character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you don't want to reduce that to the way that we Americans do, to just like the single trauma or whatever. Yeah. So that was that. I mean, and then I think also I personally have. I shouldn't get into this, but I think. All the TV movies I did were I got typecast about women, people with crazy mothers. Basically, was what I was typecast as, and because my mother was a kind of a colorful, sort of kind of wannabe Tennessee Williams-ish sort of figure a little bit actually, and so I would actually draw on her quite often for these like TV movies a week, and then get notes that to tone it down a little bit to make it more realistic.
Not here.
So there's a little bit of my mother actually in this character. Actually, I would say that. That's
interesting. What else is from you in the script? What did you put in the script?
Well, I think mostly because just sort of her. Yeah.
This is an adaptation, so it's more difficult to put yourself in the script.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think partly also possibly because I wasn't 100% sure that I 100% got the book in a way. Like I felt like I just I was just doing my interpretation of it basically. And like I said, we never really like Paul and I never really talked psychology per se. Only in the most sort of elliptical kind of way. So to this day, I don't know if my interpretation of what all was going on with her was his understanding, let alone Isabel Perez. Yeah. So I think she in a way is probably the final author of that. But
and so coming back to the origin, to the story and the character in the book, what inspired you in the book for her character and her?
Oh well, I think what I thought was the richest territory was her kind of having an almost autistic kind of lack of politis or the social graces and things like that, and that she's like she's not malicious or anything, but she's like very honest, like especially like the way that she talks to her, the kind of fairly non-nurturing way that she talks to her son and things like that. I thought that that was something that that jibed with kind of strong, potentially unhinged women that I've known in my own life. It was like could kind of identify with.
And one little detail, if the film would have been an American film, the character being French in the book. What would have been impossible for an American woman to be, or there's none of that problem?
Well, no. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think there's there's a certain. I mean, again, without getting into spoiler territory, I think there's a certain sophistication or something that in the American context, the insistence on a woman insisting on justice for herself, like that would be inviolable, and could be no strange negotiation around that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's the real. Yeah, if it had been an American movie, it probably really would have been what they're describing it as an "I spit on your grave" revenge movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And here it's very
which
paradoxical.
Which is to say, I mean, I still think it's that what saves it, quote unquote, saves it, is that she's always in control. She's and she basically gets what she wants. I won't say more because then there's
we
more.
cannot say.
Yeah.
What did you have an idea of the casting when you wrote it? Or absolutely not.
No, like I said, when I was working on it, it was going to be an American movie, and I think I think Naomi Watts was their number one. I think actually for the American version. But then they were always talking about if they made it as a French movie that Isabelle Huppert would be the number one.
Did you think about that when you were writing?
Yeah.
So
actually, no. It's funny, I actually never think about an actor. Actually, I sort of just kind of like make up a person, and then I think I'm always afraid that if I think of an actor when I'm writing the character, then it will fall into, like if you thought of Matthew McConaughey or something, it would end up being, too much. Like, oh, you're writing a Matthew McConaughey character. So I'm afraid of that. So I usually base people more on people that I know, really. And then so that's generally been my experience. And in this case, she was sort of like an amalgam of a mental image that I got from reading the book, kind of combined with my mother a little bit, and whoever else, and that but I was not thinking of actresses at all, actually.
And not a woman, even not an actress. Did you think about that?
No, not at all. No.
People we know or something.
No, I actually no, like not any actress at all. No, totally just a platonic ideal. Michelle, I guess, was what was on paper.
Or maybe a novel heroine you wrote you wrote before. Or?
No, I mean, and also again, I always perversely, I mean, I put too much emphasis on originality, but I usually actually try to not do that and not repeat myself like that actually. So. I mean, I'll recycle gags and things, from scripts that don't get made, and there's a funny line, I'll dig through and oh, this is a shame, this is going to waste. But but characters and things like that, no, I actually have never recycled anything like that. So,
in the book, there is this inner thinking process, constant and jumping one thing to the other. You don't exactly know what she's talking or thinking about. How do you put that into a film? Do you use voiceover? Do you use what do you do?
Yeah, no, well, that is also part of in this case, I kind of did an end run around that problem by kind of coming up with a new story in a way, so, and kind of constructing plot lines so that the things could fall into place, and it wasn't as much. Jumping around. So it's sort of in a way it's a little bit like an ensemble thing in a way, but she's basically in every scene, so it's not really an ensemble thing. But there's so many different kind of subplots going on with the different people in her life that it basically it was just like. I don't know, like chess or a battle plan or something. You just kind of lay out the different subplots kind of side by side, and then just try to work out a timing where and some things get dictated, in order for her to be emotionally in this place in this scene, she should have broken up with the lover before that, so then that means that party scene there has to come before this, and so basically it was just it was kind of logic just sort of dictated a lot of that. It was almost not really creative.
Yeah, because it's interesting to see how you can adapt a book like that, because it looks like it could only be expressed in a book. when you read it.
Yeah. So I mean, like I say, so when you see it, you'll see there's much more sort of like almost kind of a mystery plot in the first half that doesn't exist in the book, and then there actually, and then if you look in the book, there actually is there are a number of incidents that I was able to use as sort of like kind of posts to kind of hang things on. To make the second, and actually ended up. I was worried that it was going to be too loose and amorphous, but it actually ended up like cutting a lot to get it down.
And not mentioning America, but what do you expect the reaction of women might be to that film?
I think every woman who sees it will love it unreservedly, and. I don't know, actually, and I'm joking. I think I really am worried about if a reviewer at like Salon.com sees it, what they will say. Actually, I mean, they'll either love it. I think they'll either get it and love it, or it will be like this is. Or it'll be like we did Hogan's Heroes about the Holocaust or something like that. So that's the other danger. Yeah,
because it's a tricky subject.
Just because of the tricky subject, and it's not a reverent. It's not a classically reverent approach to to that subject.
It is an extraordinary character. You would not expect some woman to react that way to a rape.
Oh, and in fact, see, the thing is also, I think in real life this would be a 1 in a million thing. This is like, that's the other thing. I always feel like that women should be able to. Yeah, it's like, okay. It's like my dad. My dad's a lawyer, and he was always talking about how every judge on TV is a black woman, and yet in all his years of going, there's never in real life been a black woman judge. And so, but people have this. It hurts that people have this misperception that it almost feeds this kind of resentment, like all the their affirmative action they're making, all judges are black. Like, no, that's not the reality. So I actually went off on a tangent there and perhaps lost my point.
Interesting one.
But the idea is that you can't. So the point is here, so that you. If you're going to deal with like a woman with like something like rape, then that's like if you're a man, you have everything in the world that you can play. If you're a man, you can play a psychopath, no problem. A woman, it's like if you try to write a part for a truly, genuinely unusual woman who's kind of crazy. You get in trouble because it's like it's like, hopefully, like, I guess what my point is, hopefully we're getting to the point where like black actors can play like even like shits and psychos and anything, and not every black character has to be the magical spiritual, like wise man, or the badass hero or something like that. It would be, hopefully you could have like a movie about like a black guy who's like a nerd who or something like that. So hopefully, so that's what I was kind of thinking like about with this woman, that it's. You could do a male version of perversity like this, and if it were a man, you wouldn't even think twice about it. But because it's a woman, it's like it shouldn't be. But you know what I mean.
It's more interesting because it's unexpected.
And just like it's almost kind of like it's almost kind of patronizing and limiting women to have to like tread lightly and not write like bizarre things for them.
But I guess that's what Paul Verhoeven is after, to move you around in unexpected ways.
Exactly, and that's why I from when I was a kid, I was always a giant fan of his. In fact, it's so funny that I actually got to work with him too, because maybe even in a negative way, a very influential movie on me was Flesh and Blood, which I know he actually he does not like. That was like a very negative experience for him making it, I guess. But I love that movie.
Yeah, me too.
And one of the things I loved about it was from scene to scene, like I couldn't tell who you were supposed to be rooting for. Like who's the good guy here? There would always be. It wasn't like a big turnoff, like, oh, everybody's just awful. No, you would always be caring about somebody and rooting for somebody. It would just who that person was would change radically. And so I actually kind of went through a lot of my years in the wilderness writing uncommercial things was because I was trying to write like a Verhoeven kind of thing where you didn't have like signposts like that, and the people could just be real, and the situations could just unfold in a real way.
So if you haven't seen the picture, Flesh and Blood is about the Middle Ages, and it's very realistic in a way, in a wild way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's about these like hired killers who get betrayed. So they're hired killers, but they were betrayed, and then they rape Jennifer Jason Leigh. They're raping her, and then then her boyfriend who's coming to rescue her is like killing children by deliberately infecting them with the plague and stuff like that. So it's just like one thing after another, like that, where you never know where you stand, and it's like really, I just love that movie. Yeah.
The dark sides.
Yeah.
Did you go back in the script? Did Paul sometimes go back on the script, say, "No, we are wrong. Let's go back and let's rewrite"? Or
sure, all the time. I don't know if I remember any specific instances, but no. He'll rethink things and come back and say, you know what, I told you last time that was a mistake. So more and more recently on this Jesus thing that I was working on with him, actually, with like more like kind of like rethinking and rethinking about that. And this was actually I think almost a little more straightforward. It was a little more like we just kind of had a general initial discussion, and then all of his notes were very very practical, and a lot of the notes were about like in this dinner scene, the way I'm going to shoot it, you're going to be seeing these other characters in the background, so give them some dialogue to be saying in case we cut away to them and something like that. So it was like on that level of just being technical, really. So
I'm curious of that. Are you going to make that movie? He's going to make that movie on Jesus?
Yes, but if I do a good job, hopefully, if I don't blow it, yes, I think that's
okay.
So
it's on you.
No, I think it could be really good. I mean, the thing is, but definitely like with that, the first draft that I did was like too psychological, and it was like, and like what Paul said was I was kind of draining the mystery of the character by taking a little too obviously psychological an approach to it. Yeah, I think I was almost getting a little golden age of television a little bit in terms of telegraphing, a kind of psychological arc for his character.
So I guess he liked working with you.
Yeah. So this will be the third thing that we've done. Yeah. So yeah. Hopefully, I like to think so. I guess.
Wow.
So yeah, no. I mean, he's my favorite. He's my hero. I mean, he's my favorite guy in the world. Yeah. No, and he is such a nice guy too. It's like because like you can tell, I can be kind of awkward or whatever, and then he can be like really forceful and he's Dutch but Germanic, just and everything, and that could be really intimidating. But but he was always very gentle with me actually, which I appreciated too. So so just on a personal level too, working with him was like the greatest thing of all time. So. Yeah. So.
Yes, I was really curious about that inner feeling, and I'm now curious to see the film, as we all are. But so you use different actions to express the strange reaction of this character to what's happening to her.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is to an extent I also didn't. To an extent, it's like it's almost like what's it like? I don't know. Like in Antonioni or something. It's like you just see. I mean, the only thing I mean by that is just that you just see the behavior, and it kind of is and whatever else. You have to kind of like project, almost like what's going to be on, because basically basically you just see her do a bunch of things, and there is absolutely no scene where she has the speech. In fact, there's a scene that's almost sort of like a joke on that idea of the big speech that explains, her reason and all that.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty. It's kind of almost like a phenomenological approach in a way, where you're just sort of observing these disparate phenomena, and then hopefully it's mysterious or interesting in some way.
So in a way, you give a kind of translation in actions.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no. That is the thing. Yeah.
Actions.
You have to invent. Yes, you have to invent the actions to illustrate the things that are just thoughts in the book. Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's hard to come up with specific examples of those that don't get into like spoiler territory or just are boring and meaningless if you haven't seen the movie. But much like a lot of the other things I've been saying today. But anyway, yeah. So it's like well, for instance, in the book. Her relationship with her father and her thoughts about her father are a big thing. There's no scene in the book where she ever meets him. We Paul and I both agreed that we wanted to kind of preserve, in a sense, the kind of the distance and isolation in the relationship between her and her father. And also, again, kind of preserve the mystery of it. But also, it felt like there needed to be a scene that that dramatized the relationship with the father, and there's no way to just, have some kind of voiceover or some sort of soliloquy or something about. So we invented a scene where she goes to visit her father in prison, and then something happens so they don't actually meet. I won't go into what all that is, but there was so for instance that sequence that you'll see in the movie where she goes to visit her father in prison. Mm-hmm. That was invented specifically to try to get some of the father material in there.
Yeah.
And then we did stuff. Another example also is we had it be that a TV station is broadcasting like one of these reality a TV documentary about the father's case. And that's like sort of like running. So there's a scene where she watches that, and then there's a couple of scenes where that's like in the background. This fake documentary. So that was another like little invention to try to get some of that material in there.
Yes. And one of the questions is what is the effect? We'll see what the audience goes through as a reaction. That's a mystery. But you as a writer, when you go deep into a story like that, what do you learn about a character like that and her situation?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I actually, it's hard to say, because I guess what I would say is, like, I feel like there are things that I thought were interesting that I discovered about this character as I was writing it, but then I actually tried to almost like not put that in the script in any overt kind of way. So I could say that, but it feels like it would just be like a lot of nonsense for me to say. I mean, I think, I mean, again, to the extent that there was something like that, I guess I was thinking also in terms of a little bit about myself and, like, my relationship with my parents, and actually, although, like, I guess I alluded to my mother being a little nuts. She didn't kill a bunch of people.
No.
But, there were things happen, So there were actually things about that I could kind of, in terms of, like, the police coming to the house in the middle, and I just like what that's like, and sort of like just sort of kind of like projecting myself into that sort of like mental space, and then kind of building from there. And then I think, so I guess in a way it's interesting. Like I sort of, I guess, deal with my whatever you want to call it, like excessive hypersensitivity or something, by just sort of like leaning into it, like just sort of like saying, okay, here it is. Whereas other people, it's more usual to sort of armor yourself in some way. So again, this is lapsing into exactly the kind of psychologizing that I deplore.
Yeah.
But since you kept asking about it, I'm
sorry,
finally going
I'm
to
sorry
say
to
no,
ask.
no, no.
No,
So
it's a
I would say
tricky
that,
question.
I would say that that it's basically that she does have the full array of normal feelings. She's not autistic, but because of all these other things, there's sort of like, you know, all these layers of like needing to always be in control. And I think, and then that does kind of, without getting into spoilers or anything, that does kind of pay off in terms of like what she, you know, how her relationships play out in the weirder second half of the movie. So, if that makes any sense at all, thank you for your patience again.
Well, it's
yeah.
you have to see the film.
So about that anyway. Yeah.
What did you take out of this experience of working with Paul Verhoeven?
Hopefully being more employable going forward.
Seriously?
Yeah, no. Well, no, I mean, I mean, and in all seriousness, this I wish that I could move to Europe and only make European movies, because it's everything that I was always doing all these years, and it was just like banging my head against the brick wall. It's like oh my God, like these are my people. I'm like home. It was unreal. And Saeed Ben Saeed, I haven't said, yeah, he as a producer, he totally unique. I've never had an experience like that where he's like so intelligent and actually cares about the movie being good and original and different and all these things. I mean that's precisely the opposite of every experience I've ever had.
Tell us more about your relationship with the producer.
Well, I basically I met him. I think was, unless I'm forgetting something, I think this was the first thing that I wrote for him, and I just met him because Paul Verhoeven called me and said that Saeed Ben Saeed had the rights to this book and was interested in making a movie of it, so that was how that came about, really. And I hadn't met him before, and it was just such a breath of fresh air. And also, I think a part of it obviously is he was very respectful of Paul and letting him do his thing, which from what I've seen doesn't happen a lot. So.
Was he involved in the writing? I mean,
no, not all. No, it was almost more like respectfully, like not getting involved. It was almost like respectfully not my. I mean, he would let it, he does have opinions, and he occasionally will, and let them be known. But for the most part, it's like he kind of like lets you do your thing. So it was almost more what he didn't do that I thought was like so unique and wonderful, you know, in a way. But because like I say, I mean, like most of the American producers I've worked for are very hands-on and micromanage in a really destructive way. You know, the punctuation. So so there, yeah. So so that's about. I guess that answers that question. Hopefully.
So you're working on two other projects with Paul Verhoeven, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Cop on a Mission might be dead for all I know. I mean, Bill Mechanic actually is a producer on that, and I think they're still working on getting that made. But that's like farther down the line, and then the Jesus thing hopefully will happen.
Tell us more about Jesus.
Oh, well, can you? Yeah, well, yeah, no. I mean, he wrote a book. He's actually a biblical scholar. I mean, not in a religious way, but there's a thing called the Jesus Seminar where they study the scriptures to try to determine what can be extrapolated as historical fact from the scriptures, and kind of separating the myth from the historical fact. And so the idea was to do like as much as possible a historically factual life of Jesus. And he has a lot of very controversial, very unique interpretations of the scriptures and what he thinks that is. So that's what that project is about, and so I'm very excited about it, and hopefully it'll happen.
We shoot it in Europe.
That's their plan. Yeah. Yeah. I think, although I think he's doing something else with Said Ben Said first. I think they're making a movie about the like the French Resistance next, like another World War II movie. But then this would be, I guess, after that, hopefully.
It's the same producer, Said Ben Said?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's also SBS, Said Ben Said. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And that's, so, yeah, hopefully.
Okay, on va passer aux questions. We're going to ask the public, the audience.
Thank you so much for your patience with all that babbling.
Questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Il y a un long fil. Who's first? Okay, first.
Sorry, I missed the first half, but
you didn't miss much. It's perfect, actually.
Well, as I'm listening to you, it occurred to me, going back into the history, Ibsen.
Oh yeah.
Spoke for women's liberation, and Strindberg and psychosomatic angle.
Mm-hmm.
So, how much of these ancient authors affected you when you were writing this one?
Oh, well,
and I have a second question.
Yeah.
Second one is, my name is Rao Rampilla. Second question is, what kind of characters would you write for an Indian immigrant in America, other than cabbie or a street vendor?
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like what I would like to write for an Indian immigrant would be a compulsive gambler who's in love with his dog and has cancer or something like that. You know, like nothing to do with, like, because if you say Indian immigrant, exactly what's that going to be? It's going to be about a father who's working really late at the store because he's trying to build a life for the son. Or it'll be about like the old ways versus the new ways, or it'll be about immigration, or about, it's like there's the prescribed, subject matter for it. But you really should be able to do something that would be in and of itself an unusual movie and just happens to have an Indian guy in it.
Would you like to write a character like Dr. Zhivago, which Umar Sharif played, for an Indian guy?
Oh, I could have. I could have done that. Yeah, I could have done Dr. Zhivago like that. That would have been. Yeah. That would have been me. Yeah.
So you definitely don't like cliches.
Well, I mean, like I'm saying, like if you have to write a person going into a dark room and being afraid 500 times, eventually you're going to find yourself lapsing into a cliche once in a while. There's just you try to root them all out, but at some point I think to some extent they're almost the tools of the trade, and you have to just kind of resign yourself sometimes. But I try as much as possible to avoid it. Yeah, that would be the big thing. Yeah, sorry.
We're in the process of changing this short film into a feature, and we're wondering, I don't know if this is something that you could answer, but are we selling a script or are we selling the idea?
Oh, that's when you're. Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's okay for you.
This is me. When you're just sort of like not really like. When all you have is the property, usually what you need to take something to the next level of making it real is you need to either have money, or you have some kind of talent attached, or some sort of like unique fungible thing. Like Dahmer, for instance, the key thing we were able to get that made was because the producer's father owned a liquor store, so we were able to use a liquor store for free. So we had the location for free, so then we were able to get money, and then et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't have, if it's just the project itself that you're selling, then I think it is the script, really. Because then you have to make it as three-dimensionally there, like on paper, as possible. Because if it's just the ideas are like a dime a dozen. It's like the proof of concept has to be in how you work out the details in the script, unless you have other elements, so they call them, attached. In which case, then you definitely can get by with just the idea.
Because we have the script, and the idea is kind of what you're talking about. It's about females being like not the
typical.
typical.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. No,
so that's like our selling point in a way.
No, yeah, and then that's the thing. There was this phrase that they bandied around a lot in the 80s where they talk about high concept. That they don't say that anymore. But the idea is it's one criticism that you'll when you're trying to sell like a spec script.
Yeah.
One criticism that you'll hear about why you won't be able to sell that is you'll hear this phrase, and it's kind of nightmarish, execution dependent, like meaning that yes, this could be good, but it would have to be well written in order to be good. It's like not idiot proof good. To like sell something to a studio, it has to be idiot proof good,
Okay.
meaning like it has a concept like you're locked in Fort Knox and the water's rising and you have 6 hours to get out and it's filmed in real time, or like some kind of gimmick like that. Then you could theoretically get any sequence of Joe Schmo screenwriters to try their hand at that. But if it's something about unusual characters, something where there's a particular vision involved, then it's all about the execution.
Yeah.
And then if you do have an execution dependent thing, then the path usually that you have to take is getting it to talent, getting it to an actor or actress in this case.
Okay.
And then it gets very easy if you get an actress attached.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden things seem much more real, and can start going a lot faster.
Okay. And
But
my second question,
sure.
sorry, this is really basic. So what is your process when you sit down and you're about to write this story? Do you start with your synopsis? Do you start with a scene randomly? Do you start with the end, the middle, the beginning?
Well, it's different with spec things. I usually have like an idea of like an unusual relationship or something like that. So then I'll just sort of like try to imagine different twists and turns that relationship could take, and then write an outline. I usually don't do scene cards. A lot like my friends do index cards like up on the wall. I usually just make a list of like a shorthand list, and then I do break things up into acts. Usually, if you get too far away from some cognizance of acts, I think you get in trouble too.
Okay.
So basically, I do outline things first, and then usually also, because I find it's really hard to write like good dialogue and move all the furniture around and everything all at the same time. So I sort of do successive drafts, which each for myself before I would ever show it to anybody, and then each draft is like a layer of paint or something in a way, to kind of fill it in. So like then you do now I'm going to try to make the dialogue good pass, and do that. So that's sort of it, really. I think for me anyway. Yeah, sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
So you had your script translated to French. So
Yes.
how was that process? How much did you trust in the translation, in the gags?
Well, it was like a two-step process. It was translated kind of crudely into French. Then I actually sat down with Paul, who does speak French, and then we went and I laughingly attempt to communicate in French. So then we went through it kind of line by line. And when there was something that I didn't know, like a lot of times with idioms where I didn't really know, I didn't get if that really was. He would explain to me what the idiom meant, and I'd say no, that's all wrong. That's not what that was supposed to be. That the translator was taking that literally, and so a lot of it was. It was almost kind of an embarrassing process of going through the script and saying, no, that was supposed to be funny. That was supposed to be funny. No, that again, and then had to kind of go back and then retranslate it again. basically. So it was like, so I think there were actually like 3 stages of back and forth with the translation to try to as much, and I'm sure it was not perfect, and I'm sure a lot was lost in translation, but as much there was an attempt at fixing that problem or addressing it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
Thanks. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
Just one question. I'm sorry, I smoke a little much. That's why I've got that kind of voice. In which movie, in a collaboration with Paul Verhoeven, in which movie you put your really, really own personality, really your creative, really in which movie you put most of you?
Oh, which
Maybe
movie with Verhoeven?
Yes, of course. Sorry.
Not the Jesus one. So I would say L for sure. Absolutely for sure. Yeah. No, and then the first one we did together was just very much it's like The Departed or something like that. It was like it would still be a good movie, hopefully someday. It's just about a corrupt cop who decides that he's going to like become a kingpin for real, like while he's undercover. But so it was just a genre exercise. So it really was not very personal at all. So I would say L for sure is by far the most personal of them. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and for him too, I think also. Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
So this time you were called by Verhoeven to write the script.
Yes.
And on all the jobs, people give you an idea of what you have to do. Is it always like that? Do you have always something down? Or do you have original idea from you, and then you try to sell it?
No, everybody's experience is very different. My experience has been that I've like had two tracks of writing. I write scripts on my own for my own artistic benefit, which I then use as a doorstop or a paperweight or something like that for the most part. Or then I get hired to write something, and then it's like they have an idea, or it's based on a true story, or it's an adaptation of a book, or it's a remake of a Chinese movie, or it's a remake of a Swedish or a French movie, something like that. And actually, I only just like last year for the first time ever sold something that was my own, the science fiction thing to Warner Brothers. So now I feel like an idiot because actually it seemed like it was I'm supposed to be imparting helpful information. This is probably the first helpful thing at hour 11 here. Sorry, thank you. But no, I did actually learn a lot. Having sold this thing to Warner's, I now feel like I know what the formula is to sell something. You take 2 cliches that haven't been juxtaposed together before and juxtapose them in an interesting way, and voila, all of a sudden it's like, you really have something. So like this thing that I sold to Warner's, it's an alien invasion thing. When was the last time you saw one of those? And it's like a kind of like a double agent, sort of like The Americans, if you know that series. It's sort of like a double agent kind of Jean Le Carré kind of trapped behind enemy lines kind of thing. And so if you just put those 2 standard things together, but nobody has done that exact juxtaposition before. I have meetings and people go, "Oh my God, that was so wild and wonderful," and it's like it was literally just like nailing 2 things together. That so that's an unusual credenza or something. So that would be my thing. Like don't sweat originality too much is the big key. That's the big takeaway. But anyway, unless you're European, in which case then you can do something different. Yeah. Or Christopher Nolan, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Or be very rich and successful.
Do
I
you
should
have,
try that next
That's
time.
the easiest.
do you have personal subjects coming again on your spec scripts?
Yeah. I probably went to the lesbian vampire well one too many times, probably. I'm kidding. I did. I'm joking. I mean, I did do one of those, but I would say one thing that does really interest me, that if I ever get to make my own movie, like the part of the San Fernando Valley, which is like the suburbs of Los Angeles I come from, I think is a really fascinating, interesting place that's very much looked down upon. It's very much like an embarrassment to say that you're from there. But I think it's a really unique, interesting place, and no. Let's see. This is the thing. Like Paul Thomas Anderson is thought of as like a San Fernando Valley filmmaker, but he grew up in like Burbank. His dad was like a voiceover artist, and he grew up in like Burbank, Studio City, that kind of more studio adjacent, upscale part of the valley. I'm talking about like the Snopes sort of like white trash, basically outer part of the valley. That's like really very American Gothic, which is where like the Manson family, had their where Spahn Ranch was. My wife and I, we grew up near Spahn Ranch, and so like the Manson presence was kind of always around. It's just a really cool place with a dark and rich history, and yet nobody's really so in a lot of. Insofar as things that I write have a little bit of a personality or something, I think it just comes from that place being kind of terra incognita to a lot of people. So just being true to that location, you get like sort of like a free hit of originality or something off of that. So, sorry. Yeah. Oh, well, basically just to the I mean, it's just really obvious and what everybody knows, that just this schism between there's only... Oh, the other thing that they say is everything has to be, they call it IP, which stands for intellectual property. Everything has to be like pre-existing intellectual property. And it can even be just a book, even if it's a book that nobody read. If you can point to it that some company published this book, then you have a little bit more credibility. But generally, it has to be like a comic book character or a remake. I was thinking the other day, like maybe there are historical incidents, like you could say the Charge of the Light Brigade, something like that. That might count as intellectual property, but it has to be a known quantity. So basically, yeah, you either make things on a very, very, very low budget and basically finance it yourself, like in the low $100,000s of dollars, yeah, and like pulling favors, and you shoot on you shoot in a friend's house and things like that. That's one kind of movie that gets made in Hollywood, and then there's based on some kind of pre-existing intellectual property $100 million movies, and there's and the whole. The whole Hollywood that even Tarantino came out of, like it doesn't exist anymore at all. So it's it's either DIY or Avengers, like Civil War, something like that.
So there are a lot of films coming out from the blacklist.
I was on that.
Oh yeah,
yes, I was on that.
Yeah,
yes.
Bravo. And there were two. The last two films of Tarantino were on the blacklist. Were putting out on the blacklist. So, what do you think about that? I mean, there were so many good scripts not done, and they have to be
even he there has scripts that he
with
can't
the blacklist.
No. I actually a friend of mine is friends with him, and even has like story, but like that he gave a script to Harvey Weinstein, and Harvey Weinstein just took the script and like put it in a drawer and said that like it's not going to happen, and that's Tarantino, So. So yeah, if Tarantino has things that he can't get made, it's like it's really an uphill battle. I mean, although on the bright side, it's more possible now than ever to go out and make your own movie for very little money. So that's the bright side. So that God closes the door and opens the window. There is a little bit to that. So Yeah, I don't know. The people I've known who've done self-distribution have gotten really burned by it and not made any money. I mean, I actually, this friend who's her name's Allison Anders. She's directed like several, so like Gas Food Lodging and in the '90s a lot of movies, and she directs a lot of television like Girls and things like that. But she made a movie that they did a Kickstarter campaign and funded it, and they made the movie, but then haven't been able to do anything with it. I don't think it's had any distribution at all. It's good too. It's good, yeah, and that's how hard it is. I don't mean to be discouraging, but in Hollywood, that's how hard it is these days. I mean, this will change. I mean, these things are cyclical, but for right now, that's kind of what the situation is. So, yeah.
Is that your questions?
Oh, sorry.
Your dream world, as far as how filmmakers can get films made.
You should be able to just sort of like put an index card up on a bulletin board, like what you want to do, and then they call you and tell you go ahead and do it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think the thing is, like, if my dream of Hollywood would be like the Hollywood of the early '70s. I think everybody's is like that would be. Like, we all kind of missed out on that, and when I was a little kid and seeing those movies, I kind of thought that was like some kind of. I did not appreciate what an anomaly that time was. It was because the studio system was dying and nothing new had arisen to take its place, and in that interregnum period, they were just letting people go crazy, and that was when all those great movies were made. And now it's just very much like big business now. So not like it wasn't before, but but more than ever, it's like a corporate product, and that's what's a problem.
Do you think Xavier Dolan's a corporate product?
I'm actually blanking out on. Yeah.
Well, he has a movie here.
Oh yeah. I know the name. I'm so out of it. I'm sorry.
He makes a lot of movies.
Oh.
He's young. And he
Yeah.
writes, directs, stars in.
Oh yeah.
He's very critically accepted at Cannes, but it's kind of fascinating his approach.
Yeah.
I was wondering if yours.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I had the secret, I would have employed it myself by now. Yeah, so, yeah. So, yeah. Oh,
Yep.
Sure.
I mean, everyone writes from their life, including Arthur Miller or whoever it is.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you are writing from your life, like you did from your mother, how what's your technique to get away from that at certain point and build that character into something else?
Yeah. I never do anything like really autobiographical. You just steal little things. It's like if you just need a moment, I mean, that would be the big thing that I advise people to do. Also, yeah, when I have friends who aren't good writers or aren't really writers and they give me a script to look at, it's just everything looks like it was just based on some movies that they've seen. There's no individuality in it. So I always just like tell my friends to just think about things that are in your own life, like even just like random weird details, and just throw them in there even randomly, and they add up to giving the thing some kind of a feeling of life and individuality. Because like in real life, it's like two thugs don't walk into a room and say, "All right, we told you to give us the money by Friday, or we're going to break your legs." And he says, like, "Give me one more day." It's like, there will come a time when you'll have to write that scene, but there's different ways to do it. If like Robert Altman or in the 70s, they were great at doing those kind of classic cliche genre trope scenes, but the guy would be doing shtick with his dog or something while it's going on, and that becomes kind of the subject of the scene. So, and then Tarantino, of course, turned that into his his whole style and everything. So yeah, I think like that you shouldn't be. It's also wrong to be too autobiographical, because it's like just because it happened to you doesn't mean that it's interesting. So it's more like you just have to kind of pick and choose and use the autobiographical shit that you go through just as as tools, basically, I guess. That sounded right, I guess. So anyway, sorry.
Question?
collaboration.
Actually made. This is the first one that's actually been made. Every other one is just like a twinkle in an eye. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
on this one, you work with Paul Verhoeven.
Yes. Yeah.
Was my question.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Any more questions?
I think we probably covered every topic, and then we're
in screenwriting.
I think there would be a good country to shoot a movie at that you haven't seen enough movies from.
Luxembourg? I don't know.
Because they have the money, you
Belize? I don't know. Yeah,
a lot of French movies shot in Luxembourg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
I take that back. Luxembourg is actually horribly overexposed, so I don't know. Oh, there's that island like St. Kitts and something or other. I haven't seen too many things set there, but I don't know. I don't know actually. That's an interesting question. Sri Lanka would be great. Yeah. Yeah.
They're over there.
Yeah. No, that would be great. No, like the Tamil tigers are from there, right?
Exactly.
That's a fascinating story. Nobody's done that.
The last Palme d'Or was a story from Sri Lanka.
Oh, was it Deepan?
Yeah.
That was Sri Lanka. I didn't realize that. Oh, I still haven't seen that movie, so I'm behind. It's only just now coming out in America. That's my excuse. So, okay, yeah. So yeah.
What's that tiger one?
Oh, tiger. Oh no, it was a real or terrorist organization. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. And we'd like to thank you, David.
Thank you so much for your patience. That felt endless. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Are you excited for the premiere?
Yeah, no, this is the highlight of my life, basically. No, you guys being here and the pretense that I have something to say is like, you made my life. Thank you very much.
And we wish you the best for the screening and then after.
Thank you so much.
So we have a drink.
Of course. Yeah.